Hello, my name is Dr. Dan Fouts. Today we're going to be looking at concussion or mild traumatic brain injury. With about 1.7 million to 3 million estimated people in the United States that have concussion every year and 1.4 million that require emergency room visits for that, we're going to see that there's quite a few both short and long-term sequelae that occur because of that particular type of injury. At the same time, as we get into it, we're also going to be looking at a host of other brain-related issues that aren't caused by the concussion, but at the same time have very similar symptoms occurring in the same areas of the brain. We're going to be able to not only look at some good things that we can do to help support the body's ability to minimize the damage from concussion or mild traumatic brain injury, but also to potentially help a host of other related brain issues in the meantime. So here we go. Concussion is known as a form of mild traumatic brain injury resulting from an external force to the head or body that transiently alters brain function. To date, there is no medicine clinically proven to treat acute concussion or the approximately 30% of individuals who develop persistent concussion symptoms. Multiple animal model studies and a small number of human studies have demonstrated the potential benefits of various plants and herbal components to actually support the body's ability to minimize concussive brain damage and the resulting alterations to metabolism, biochemical pathways, inflammation, and a host of other pathological situations. However, as usual, the scientific community does not want to proceed with nutritional supplementation without many more human study results. Several problems with that concept. One is simply new drugs are many years away, and mono-targeting is what they will be doing, meaning they're going to be affecting one particular problem. However, we're going to see there's a multitude of different things that are going wrong in the brain following concussion. Many other human studies also have already been performed on those same symptoms which have occurred in other neurological diseases. The plant and herbal components used in the prior studies definitely proved beneficial and did not produce any bad side effects, so why not at least try using them? During the concussion, primary damage occurs from the initial insult, meaning the head getting struck. Mechanical damage from shearing, tearing, and/or stretching of neurons, axons, glia, and blood vessels result in what's called diffuse axonal injury, and it's the high-speed nature that is the problem. It causes that shearing, tearing effect. If you were to slowly stretch an axon, it actually could double in length with no injury at all and normal function. Having said that, the high-speed nature of what's going on as the brain moves in the skull results in direct neural cell loss and necrotic cell death. Primary injury is just the beginning. Secondary cell death and neuroinflammation become a major challenge. Primary injury triggers this whole second wave of biochemical cascades that are going to occur. And literally, when I say occur, that is within seconds to minutes after that traumatic insult. They can last for days, months, or years, and that doesn't even include subconcussive impacts. As we see the girls, the soccer players, heading the ball, that repetitive hitting of the head in the ball, or in football, the repetitive less than concussive force strikes also accumulate and add up to the same type of problems. With common mild traumatic brain injury symptoms, we have different types. Physical symptoms will end up as headaches, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, sleep disruptions, hearing problems, vision disturbances, and seizures. In addition, common cognitive and behavioral disorders are going to occur. Things like attention deficit, memory problems, executive dysfunction, changes in personality, irritability, mood changes, aggression, impulsivity, self-centered behavior, poor persistence, depression, sadness, low energy and motivation, not liking oneself, hopelessness, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, all can occur following that concussion. Within literally seconds to minutes, there are significant changes in the neurometabolic functions in the brain cells, including these 5 serious changes resulting in significant brain cell death: excitotoxicity, reactive oxygen species, meaning free radicals, meaning oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, which means a dramatic lack of energy to the brain, blood-brain barrier breakdown, allowing bad stuff to get through to the brain and cause more damage, as well as neuroinflammation, which becomes a very chronic feature and can go on for years at a time. Much of modern medical science is about managing abnormal stuff going on in the body. Dr. McAnally's approach is, how do we support more normal in the body? Give it what it requires in order to take care of itself. The body can utilize a wide variety of plant components to help properly balance and regulate an extensive array of biochemical and physiological responses in the body in general and the brain in particular. The various cell functions listed at the top of the page over these next 3 slides represent multiple aspects of brain cell structure and function that can be compromised by concussion forces or even other neurodegenerative diseases and brain-related issues. Each check mark represents a minimum of 1 to literally sometimes hundreds of PubMed studies in how the body attempts to utilize various plant components to normalize functions that have been altered in the brain. Based on thousands of studies, various plants have been combined in powerful synergistic formulas that help support the body to properly regulate and balance complex biochemical pathways involved in cellular structure and functions. The first 10 plants listed in the blue box is one example of one of those formulas that have been very beneficial in supporting the body to do exactly that, as you will note with all the check marks in the next 2 slides. Without getting overly technical, the plant components are utilized by the body to help correct the multitude of things that go wrong in the body. Ultimately, dysregulation of the cells and systems results in either too much or too little of something that causes problems. While the body is programmed to make things work properly, it doesn't always have all of the nutrient tools, so to speak, to properly regulate itself. The harsh reality is that many of the plant components it requires to do that are no longer available in our modern day diets. Fortunately, however, many of those missing plant components have been put together in nutritional supplement formulas by a company called Aroga. As already mentioned earlier, many of the symptoms that occur in post-concussion syndrome also occur in people who have never had a concussion. It has been proposed that a more accurate description will be to name it PIBS, P-I-B-S, short for post-inflammatory brain syndrome, associated with neuroinflammation and, in addition, systemic inflammatory signaling from other parts of the body. Ends up resulting in things like headache, irritability, anxiety, depression, personality changes and apathy, insomnia or sleep disturbance, fatigue, reduced tolerance to stress, emotional excitement or alcohol, cognitive and memory difficulties, and dizziness. Neuroinflammation and pro-inflammatory cytokine inhibition is possible by multiple plant components. As you can see on the slide, there's a multitude of symptoms that can occur due to inflammatory signaling. Fortunately, all of the plants we saw a few slides ago showed that their plant components could be utilized by the body to help properly regulate inflammation. In my extensive review of the medical literature on PubMed concerning concussion and mild traumatic brain injury, came across a host of different disease states and psychological factors that can affect the same areas of the brain and consequently their various functions, as does the physical trauma of something like concussion. The end result is the same abnormal altered biochemistry and physiology as we talked about earlier. In particular, notice that many thousands of studies have been done to evaluate the exact same symptoms in diseases occurring without any physical trauma. Also note that both physical and psychological disorders are listed, and I assure you there are many more disorders and symptoms that could be listed here. As we look through these other disease names on the list, you can see that there's a combination of things like neurodegenerative diseases as well as autoimmune diseases, as well as some other things that can be affecting the brain. At the same time, psychological issues both had the same 18 different things that were going wrong or that had issues. And so things like ADHD, anxiety, autism spectrum disorder, we're talking 1 in 44 children born now have some aspect of that. Think of the potential that we have in looking at the plants that had helped with all those check marks. From the PubMed study showed that they were able to be utilized by the body to help correct or improve upon many of those different 18 things that were going wrong. Net result is, while we know we didn't have that many studies in one sense on plant components with concussion, the exact same areas of the brain that are involved, we see literally thousands of different studies that have been performed in looking at the other aspects like bipolar disorder, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, schizophrenia. An amazing ability of the body to self-correct a whole lot of things if it gets what it happens to require to make that happen. As we these other things. As we go down through the list, as I mentioned, Alzheimer's, we can also be talking neurodegenerative diseases, but at the same time, autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis, for instance, that also are things that can create problems with the brain. Once again, a difference in the approach, managing abnormal versus supporting more normal. While the body is programmed to make things work properly, it doesn't always have all of the nutrient tools, so to speak, to properly regulate itself. The harsh reality is that many of the plant components it requires to do that are no longer available in our modern day diets. Fortunately, however, many of those missing plant components have been put together in nutritional supplement formulas by a company called Aroga. Of the 25 different plants that we have looked at, the first 10 plants on the list have been combined in the Pathways Core formula, providing very broad spectrum support for all of the major systems of the human body. Additional combinations of the 25 plants have been put into Pathways Plus formulas that support specific issues in the various systems of the body, like the brain and nerve support, gastrointestinal support, bone, joint, endocrine support, as well as others. Remember, more options are a good thing. Good health doesn't just happen, it's our choice every day. Please get back with the person who shared this information with you and find out more as far as how you can support your body to do everything it's programmed to do in a very efficient and effective manner. Thank you. Have a great day.